Hello there.
Hello.
Hi.
Even though what I'm about to say won't be the case when you're listening to this episode, I think it's significant enough to be noted here. We are recording this double bill episode on the 9th of July, and Tom Hanks turned 63 just now.
Oh, wow.
Oh, happy birthday. Best actor ever.
Yeah.
Also, this is the first time we do a proper double bill. We had some recaps sometimes, like in The Predator. I went on with the other ones. So, A Star is Born. There's some listings of stuff in there. But yeah, Tom Hanks is relevant because today, first double bill, Toy Story 1 and 2. And essentially, I've only have a very few amount of notes. And I know that I think it is the third one that is very important to you. So, but it's in that franchise, Adam. So I'll leave the floor to you, and you can go anywhere you want with that.
Oh
Boy, I've been given responsibility. It's like Saw all over again.
no.
No, not in a bad way. Just that I made you guys watch all those movies. Toy Story, the Toy Story series, I wanted to cover because it was strange because when Toy Story 4 was announced, I think a lot of people, me and Anouk's age, and younger as well, because Toy Story 3 came out, I want to say, 9 or 10 years after the first one. I think it's 2010. I will clarify that when we get to Toy Story 3, the age difference, but it's definitely been 9 years since Toy Story 3, so there's a lot of people that have come to Toy Story, seen the whole series, and then go to 4. And I remember watching 4, we booked to see it, and my parents were like, we want to come with, because there's a thing about Toy Story for me that was, I watched it with my parents. I have a story to talk about 2 when we get to talking about 2 in detail. We saw 3 together in the cinema, and it was like a closing thing, and then decided as a family to go and see this with Anouk as well this time, because there's a new member of the family, it seems. And just that overall feeling of this was a movie franchise that was a very key part of my childhood in multiple forms, be it film, be it toys, and be it video games as well, because Toy Story 2 had a banging video game. So it's a very important series to me. And after seeing 4, I'm like, okay, we should talk about all 4, since we have this and being able to go in deep and have conversations about Toy Story. So I felt that Toy Story would be a good one to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Anouk?
Oh my God. I grew up with Toy Story. Like, it was one of the films my parents put on that they could enjoy as well. Especially because I wasn't interested in any of the princess Disney films. Like, Toy Story was the one that I was sort of brought up on. So much so that when I rewatch them, it's funny because I remember like the cadence of the voices, but I don't remember what they say. So it's really weird because I'm almost watching a completely different film now, because I actually understand quite a lot of the nuances and the discussions and the arguments that they have, rather than when I was a kid. I know exactly kind of what up and down they go with their voice, but I can't remember what they actually say.
And so this was this the first time for you, Yann? You were unfamiliar to this franchise, or did you have any experience with it before? I think 2016 and meeting us.
No, I think I watched the first one a couple of times, but not necessarily. Definitely not the third, and not the second one.
Okay.
Well, not that I could remember anyway. But as this is for the first time a double bill, I thought about yesterday, maybe we should right away from the start do a quick synopsis for both, so we know where we are. If you would like to. Sure.
So Toy Story 1 takes place in Andy's bedroom. We start off with seeing a very cute action scene for straight out of a child's imagination that we will revisit in another film. So just be aware for that for Toy Story 3, that opening scene. The basic story is it's Andy's birthday, and Andy receives a new toy, which replaces Woody, who up to then has been his favourite toy of all time. And there's a whole jealousy spark between Woody being replaced by Buzz and the fact that Buzz doesn't realise that he's a toy. He thinks that he's a space ranger. And basic chaos ensues from that. ending up in the evil neighbor's backyard, trying to get back to the toys after being separated. And that's the basic principle of 1. I'd forgotten how sort of sweet and simple Toy Story 1 really was. I haven't seen Toy Story 1 in a long time, actually, because 2 is my favorite. And I think do we want to talk about them together, or do we want to do 1 then go to 2? Do you think would work better for format?
I think we could. I haven't.
Let's do 1, and then we'll go to 2, and then we can talk about differences once we've in 2, because we're talking about the second one. So I'll do a synopsis of 2 when we get to 2. So the first one is really amazing to see now, knowing where animation has come to. For example, me and Anouk yesterday watched both A Bug's Life, which was the next movie in the line after Toy Story, before Toy Story 2, and Monsters Inc. and Ratatouille. So this jumping from like 98 to about 2001, 2002 maybe, and then jumping to like 2007 and just seeing the degrees of animation evolve. It's incredible, and I can see why our parents would be interested in this too, because it was like it's nothing that had been done before. We'd seen short films, but never anything this long at that detail. And it's funny with Toy Story 1 coming back to it is that, and I've heard people say this about when they're looking at 4 side by side, is as a child and a younger person, you think it looks like how 4 looks now. You know, how it looks totally amazing. This is the best thing ever. This is amazing how graphics have come. And then you jump to like 2019, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe what we can do with graphics. But even looking at it, it still looks amazing. It doesn't look dated at all.
No.
Like there's animation that comes out today that doesn't even match the original Toy Story.
Yeah, I mean, they've put a kind of Bo Peep side by side from Toy Story 1, Toy Story 2, Toy Story 3 and Toy Story 4, and like how much texture has changed in the graphics, and also even like the shine, because she's plastic, how that's but I think the most interesting thing is the facial expressions. Like we watched something, I don't remember what it's from, but they were talking about how they've really done blinking well.
It was the video
now.
Talking about the production of Toy Story 2, which we'll link in this episode at the bottom.
Right.
It's an interesting video to give you context for Toy Story 2 as well.
Oh my God, it's such an incredible story.
Yeah.
And just goes to show how much work goes in before the film comes out. We kind of see the end product of something that was just, 4 years in the making, which is insane to think. I mean, Tom Hanks even talks about how, he started on Toy Story 1 in 1991, and it came out in 94, 95?
95 it comes out, yeah.
So, I mean, so for me, Toy Story 1 was the first sort of animation that I really got into. Like, I'd watch it as much as possible. Of course, Bambi was involved in that, but that's a very different style of animation. And I guess it's just the storyline. Like, if you think about, it's such a genius idea because it's sort of the first time when, like a whole family could watch something and really be involved in it, rather than it being like, oh, my kid wants to watch this again.
There is a feel for that. Even if we talk about, like, let's say Aladdin, because we just discussed that, and that's 92 for the time era. I mean, there's stuff for the parents to enjoy, but it didn't. And there's a good conversation now that came out about the iTunes wanting to class Incredibles 2 as like a kids movie, and the Brad Bird came out and said it's not just it's not a kids movie, it's an animated film. It's not specifically just for kids. There's exactly, because people that grew up on The Incredibles, which is another masterpiece of the Pixar world. Or I was dying to see Incredibles 2. I was so excited. It was my most excited moment for that year last year. So there was it's a really interesting conversation that it was an animated film that bridged the gap. You're right, for everybody could enjoy it, and adults being excited to see another one. And that's
Sure.
a real trick to do. That's a
Sure.
real trick to do.
It's also like one of those questions that you always ask, like, do my toys come to life when I leave the room? Like, you sort of, as an adult, you kind of want it to be the case. And also you kind of treat the things that you love like that, like they're real, and that they have the respect that, you know, like anything real would want, rather than an object, right? So even as an adult, you have this like childlike obsession with your toys. But then as a kid, it's like there's a real feeling that as soon as you leave the room, everything just comes to life.
And I think that's also where the parent involvement comes into, because everybody has had toys that they cared about. Regardless of what age you are, you could be a child and have them now, and you could be an adult that you had them when you were children. You know what that feels like to have played with toys, and the thought that like, oh, do they come to life? Which is another great thing for bridging the gap between like an audience, really.
They did that with pets recently, actually.
Ah.
Oh yeah, with Secret Life of Pets.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a real. It's almost like, what do teachers do after school like ends? You know,
Yeah.
like, do they sleep at school?
There's Doctor Who plot going on here, isn't there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
or they become
Got
weird vampire
bat things. Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Absorbeloffs or
Yeah. Yeah. Or that was a weird episode. Anyway, it really like tapped into that, and then Toy Story 2 is really interesting because it was also like when adults bridge that gap of like loving their toys and respecting them, but then also becoming like so obsessed so they don't even take it out the wrapper because it's become like commercially viable or even like a collector's item. Like there's a huge world in that.
see that if you don't explain what the second one is about right now, it would become confusing quite quickly.
Oh, right. Well, I'm kind of guessing that everyone's seen Toy Story 2 in that. But basically, Toy Story 2 is about Woody being kidnapped by the Chicken Man, who owns a toy barn. Al's Toy Barn, right?
I think he works. I think he works it. Does he own it?
He owns it. He's Al.
He is I didn't know. I didn't notice that. But yeah,
Okay.
you're probably right.
I think he's Al. I think he owns the thing. But he basically realizes that Andy's mum has a yard sale, and Woody accidentally gets kidnapped by this guy, and he basically sees that Woody is like a collector's item because he also has Bullseye, and
He's part of a set.
yeah, he's part of the Woody's Roundup gang set, right? So you have Jessie, who's like the female cowgirl, and
Papa something.
Stinky Pete,
Yes.
who's the who is he?
He's the prospector.
Prospector. Amazing. And then Bullseye, the horse, right?
Yeah.
Which of course we all know, Run Like the Wind Bullseye comes from that. And he has a interested buyer from Japan wanting to buy these 3 collector's items, which Woody but also basically saying that I will not 4
Bullseye, Stinky Pete, Jessie, Woody.
excuse me.
Sorry.
4 toys, and of course he won't buy unless Woody's involved with it. So they come as a 4, right? And a lot of chaos ensues.
Yeah, Buzz goes out to try and save him with a bunch of guys. They end up
in Al's Toy Barn.
Yeah, and
on the streets.
adventure ensues. So
Yeah.
they're the basic principle.
It's brilliant.
However, I guarantee you, everybody that's listening to this has seen both movies, so we're all right with the plot because they are one from the I think it's 99. It's Toy Story 2 too as well. But there's a thing about it because Pixar's now this big thing. Toy Story is the staple. If you say Pixar to somebody, they'll probably say Toy Story.
Sure.
It's the film you go to, and Toy Story 2 is the big one. It's strangely enough might still be the best one they've ever done.
Well, I think there was a lot of pressure from each Toy Story that came out to be as good as the last, because Toy Story 1 was such an iconic animation film for the whole family. And so if you think about how huge that is, how many families across the Western world and probably the rest, well, globally, I'm guessing, it really like touched everyone on a certain level. And then so of course there was this added pressure that Toy Story 2 had to be as good or better. And I think that's probably why it was so important, because you know when something like the second one or the third one is really bad, because you know they just know that it's a cash grab, and so they don't spend too much time on the script and animation, etc.
Well, yeah, that was the case with Disney, because in the video that we will link talks about how there was a whole thing of straight to DVD idea. You know, like you make the main one, then you make the DVD and sell it. And there was also a thing that in a Lindsay Ellis video, she talks about how a lot of like big movies, what they would do is they would put like a couple of episodes of the TV series that would come out after it, because that's a common thing that would happen. They would do a TV series. Aladdin had one. Tarzan definitely had one that I remember.
Oh, yeah.
And they would stick, and Beauty and the Beast had, I don't know if they had a TV, I think they did have a TV series, because they had a definite straight to DVD thing.
Yeah.
And what they do is like put 5 episodes on a VHS, because this is pre-DVD age, and they would sell it as a movie. And the idea that you would be, if you enjoyed it, you could watch the TV show afterwards. So there was a whole thing about the sequel was never going to be as good for that style of film. And in the case of a lot of them, I mean, I don't remember many Disney sequels before. And to be fair, Pixar is outside of Disney at this point, not owned by them, but they are now Disney Pixar, and there is a team up with Disney, to be fair.
Right.
And this was like the first one. It was like, this might be better than the original. Like, I don't think there was a case of a Disney sequel being better than the first until Toy Story 2.
That's a good point. Yeah.
At the time, I think I was only interested in Pixar because of the story behind the scenes. Like my dad, we had Apple computers very early on. It started with the Mac Plus in '84. So we're not just jumping on the hype train now. It's been, and when Steve Jobs was fired from Apple in the 90s, he created another computer company next, but the computers were extremely expensive, and he invested heavily in Pixar. That's when I heard about this company for the first time.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't remember actually watching it at the time. I don't think I did, but it was a bit interesting to learn about that. And obviously also when we watched the first one not so long ago, and I didn't know and I didn't realize, and neither did you, I guess, because you said, Joss Whedon was in the writing team there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea. Well, of course, because this is the first time that I'd watched it as an adult and as an actor. So, of course, credits are not just, the film has ended. Like, I actually, we're so geeky that we actually like read the names of the credits.
Yeah.
And and that was such a surprise because I don't think many people know that.
Yeah.
Well,
I had no idea.
The people that matter do, because he wrote the screenplay for the original Buffy, the one that didn't succeed in theaters, in cinemas.
Yeah.
Then he wrote the TV series. He wrote, there's always that story that I've told a few times on this podcast about Alien Resurrection, which because of the casting, he often says that there'll always be a shitty alien movie with his name on it.
Sure. Yeah.
I wonder who he means.
I didn't know that he was involved in Toy Story 1 though.
No, neither did I.
That was surprising to me just because I don't connect him with Pixar.
But he's been a script doctor for years.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I guess when I think of Joss Whedon, I think of Buffy. But that's because my brother was obsessed. And then that translated to me.
It's interesting because in Toy Story 1, it's funny because Toy Story 1 is pretty short by standards nowadays. I mean, fucking look at Aladdin. It was like 2 hours and 10 minutes. It's like, doesn't need it.
Oh, and I remember when I was watching it just now, you know, the scene when Buzz is about to fly and you've got the Randy Newman song over it.
Yeah.
That felt like years to me as a kid. Like,
did you ever do when you were a kid, like you would start watching it on VHS, then stop and then come back, and it made the film feel longer?
Yeah, that's probably what was happening.
Like I remember I used to think the bit that goes from Pizza Planet getting him in the machine to Sid, that's probably about where I would pause and then come back the next day, and you'd be like, oh, this goes on forever.
Yeah,
but in reality, it's like a 70-minute movie.
Yeah,
I read somewhere in a video. I saw in a video that was talking about like how Pixar's evolved, because it was talking about how the technology is to Toy Story 4. It would take less time to render the movie than it would take to watch it now with the technology they have for Toy Story 1.
There you go.
It's incredible. I'll find that
amazing.
video as well and link it for the bottom of this.
But you stopped and restarted because we have stuff to do in our lives, but you don't have the problem that my dad has.
Oh, what's that?
He would, depending on the quality of the film, take 15 hours to watch a 2 hours movie.
Oh,
wow.
Because of the falling asleep.
Oh, I see.
I was about to ask, because I have a quite a ping pong brain where I will literally just, and not because I don't love what I'm doing, it's just the way that my brain works. I'll just be, oh, I have to do that. Oh, I have to do this. Oh, I have to do that. And then like it actually takes me a lot of time to focus on one thing for a certain amount of time. And I think as a kid, obviously you don't have as much like focus and like desire to like have to stay for an hour and a half. So that's probably why I would like keep coming back and forth for a film.
It's also, you don't really have the concept of time as a child. You don't have plans like I need to make dinner at such and so that'll take this long.
Right.
Like you're just sitting there watching something. I miss that. It's like your days go on forever. You have no idea what time it is. It doesn't matter.
That happened to me once. And I actually noticed that they're doing a sequel to that movie. So I was like, oh, God. Once I fell asleep like 10 minutes in. Angry Bird, the movie.
Oh, yeah. Remember when that was a thing?
No, I actually never played Angry Birds. It was never my game.
The game's good. I never saw the movie. And didn't the movie take years to come out? Because Angry Birds is one of those things, it was like the Emoji Movie should have come out like 4 or 5 years before it did. And it would have been like, okay, maybe. But by the time it came out, you're like, what?
But also, presumably, well, I guess they put all the funny bits in the trailer.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, that was the huge thing. I remember people talking about this.
And which for me weren't even funny.
No, joy.
The one they picked in the trailer. So maybe that's why maybe I was like...
I'll be honest, Yann, I don't know if you're the target audience for the Angry Bird movies. I'm just going to throw that out there.
I guess, but
maybe.
I also kind of hate that like just because this is a kids movie doesn't means that, you know, there's no intelligence in it and there's no nuance and like everything's kind of, oh, it's just for kids, they don't really understand what's going on. And it's like, yeah, but then you can also make Toy Story 1 for a child and they'll love it as much as an adult. Like, you know, this is like one of the most important films in my life, like, and I'm 26, so I kind of hate this thing of like, oh, it's just a kids movie. Like, we don't really need to spend that much time on it. It's like, well, no.
And there's also modern examples of that, like the Lego movie. I haven't seen the second one yet, but
it's genius.
The original Lego movie works for any age because everybody loves Lego.
Even though the Lego movie gets a lot of hate, though, doesn't it?
Maybe. I don't know. I love the Lego movie.
No, I love it too. I'm just saying that, like, I've heard lots of people kind of dismiss it.
Well, people did dismiss it before it came out. Everyone's like, Lego movie, really? And then it came out and it's this, in a way, in the same way that Pixar did with Toy Story, this distinct new animation, like using the actual logic of Lego bricks, like for their sets and their backgrounds, like they obey the logic of they need, if that brick didn't exist, they won't CGI a brick that doesn't exist. So it's all bricks that exist in Lego in the Lego movie.
Right.
Which is staying true to their own universe, which I think is an amazing thing to do.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then with Toy Story, it's like this new wave of animation they're like, wow, this is so cool. So, but there was skepticism. I'll agree with that. The same way the Angry Birds probably had skepticism too, because it was like, Angry Birds, really? And the way emoji movies, like certain themes of movies do have stigmas to attach, like definitely, for sure.
No, but even when people had seen it, they hated it. It wasn't just about like, oh, Lego, I don't understand how that can be an animation. Like it's they don't like the Joker and they don't like Batman. They don't like the jokes, like the actual film they don't like, right? So it's
are you talking about the Batman one?
I'm talking about all Lego movies right now. Like,
I just don't know anybody who hates them, that's all.
No, I'm just saying that we've watched movies, YouTube things, commentaries, and they'll like talk about Batman or something, and then like halfway through they'll be like, yeah, and then there was a Lego movie, the Batman one. Oh, da 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 da. Like,
yeah,
it's hated.
I was getting to that, watching it or not watching it. I know because all of those, they're animation, so they would look in your mind's eye as kid stuff, but as a first impression, right? Without even watching them. I know my father won't watch any of those because, it's just animation crap.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess there's a stigma to that, but in a way that's been turned around because of Toy Story. Like, people our age, I will always watch an animated movie. And, well, depending on how how it plays. Like, if I know it's a subject matter that is, for example, there's the Playmobil movie. I'm like, Playmobil I probably won't see because Playmobil as a product is aimed at a lower age demographic than...
I was also never into Playmobil, so I don't even have like the Lego thing I was like brought up on.
If the story is that they open a hair salon, I'll definitely go see that.
It's not really, really a thing.
I don't know.
How to do the famous thing. Yeah.
The thing is, well, we're talking about iconic. I mean, so many stuff comes out of Toy Story 1, like you're a toy... You are a toy. All of Woody's phrases, Pizza Planet, the Pizza Planet car or the logo is always near enough, always somewhere in.
Do you know what? Nearly every time that I go into, like, I leave a house, I go, everybody say, bye house.
Yeah, my mom does that too. Bye house, yeah.
And it's like, that's from Toy Story 1.
Every time there's a pizza mentioned, my dad will say, Pizza Planet.
Pizza Planet.
Yeah, Pizza Planet.
They do that in a room.
Oh.
Not the room, again, room, when it's the Brie Larson and Jacob Tremblay, they've been prisoner in that little shed for a long time. And at the end, because every morning he says hi to all the furniture and everything, and at the end he says goodbye to every
there's the creepy version of it, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys noticed this, but in Pizza Planet, one of the whack-a-mole games was Alien.
It was John Hurt, yeah.
They used the John Hurt aliens coming out of his stomach, and I was
chest
like,
bursters, yeah.
That is so gruesome for a children's movie. But obviously I hadn't seen that as a kid, but
nice. Well, that's not as gruesome, this one bit that I noticed, but you can see on the carpets the shining design.
On the walls, yeah.
Yeah, and on the walls also, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That really weird, there's weird designs in that house. Yeah. That house was super colourful.
Yeah.
I guess the one thing that I think everyone talks about are the humans in the world. No, in how the graphics had like increased amazingly from Toy Story 1 to Toy Story 2, the way that they designed the humans, right?
Yeah.
And like facial expressions and of course we talked about the blinking, but I mean, you can really see it because you watch something like Toy Story 1 and as an adult, and it's like you see also that quite a lot of the I keep calling them humans, it's weird. What should I call them?
People.
The people, thank you. The people look sort of the same and sound the same. Like there isn't that much nuance in all of the people. But then of course, like Toy Story 2, there's a lot more detail in each facial expression that even like Owl makes, like every single detail is like so on point, and you just wouldn't have got that in Toy Story 1. So there was a huge leap from 1 to 2.
They added 2 songs in the second one. There were no songs in the first one, I think. Like, in terms of characters singing.
Oh, yeah. So you have Wheezy, the penguin, singing at the end, right? With the Barbie dolls.
Yeah, it's doing the You Got a Friend in Me. Wheezy is such a great addition. Like,
yeah. Oh, and of course they talk about how dust, the added dust graphic was really, really exciting for animators at the time, because they had never been able to do something like that, which is super interesting. Something that you'd never notice are usually the most exciting things to the people behind the animation, right? Like, you would never have thought about the dust. Wheezy.
Merida's hair.
Oh, yeah, exactly. The wet hair.
Small breakthrough and milestones into animation.
Yeah, because you have, not really going off topic, but away from Toy Story, you have Ratatouille. When the rat goes into the water, there's definitely like an added detail to the wet hair, but not as detailed as Merida's hair when it becomes wet. Do you see how closely I watch these films?
Well, but if they had stayed true to standard Hollywood style, usually James Bond goes into water and he's dry right away after.
Oh yeah, in commercials you have that all the time as well. Like they might make like one arm wet, but it's so obvious that the guy has just had like a quick shower and is dried off, and it's a completely different take. Like, yeah, it's. It's also because you want him to look perfect, right? Rather than it being like continuity. It's not really an error. It's just because they want James Bond to look as perfect as possible all the time, and
also they went to lunch and they're like, right, we'll do the water shot before we go to lunch, and we'll do it afterwards. When we
exactly.
Logistics.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Toy Story 2 just has so many bits. Like, I'll be honest, I'm smiling the whole way through because you're just enthralled by everything going on because you remember it as a kid. So we do have a bit of bias.
Yeah.
But it is phenomenal. Like, every sequence, this is really good as well, especially in okay, if you're looking at it as solely a kids film, which it isn't really, but it's like 60-40, let's say, towards kids. 60% towards kids, 40% towards adults, usually, or 50-50. There's never a dull moment. The pacing is this, it follows on and it's strong. Like again, looking at you, Aladdin 2019, there are bits where you go, ugh.
Oh, like it drags.
Or even Spider-Man, it's like, ugh.
Yeah.
I'm stuck in this bit of the story.
Clumpy,
that's a good one, yeah.
It's such a horrible word.
The pacing was clumpy.
Not
the issue in either of the first Toy Story movies. It's just
no
full throttle the whole way through, and not even full throttle. Like, it feels like that, but it has time to breathe, and especially in the case of Toy Story 2, where there's the whole Jessie's When She Loved Me comes on. You're in there. You don't feel like, why is this on? You know, you're engaged in what's happening.
Oh yeah, and like you really feel for these characters, which just shows that character development was so important to these people, to the people behind the film, right? Like a character is developed so quickly somehow, and that isn't easy to do. Like, we don't know Jessie as much as we know Woody, but as soon as she has her song, it's like, I totally feel for you. Like, you don't want her to go back into storage.
No.
And the kind of unlikable character of Al, it feels weird calling him Al. The Chicken Man sounds better.
He's got a full name, obviously. His full name is Albert McWiggin.
Albert McWiggin. Do you even hear that in the film?
No, also known as the Chicken Man.
Yeah, the Chicken Man is... I have more connection with the Chicken Man. Yeah, and because he's so unlikable, you immediately feel for the other toys.
Even in his film structure, there are so many other plots going on. Like, we have the whole Rex can't beat Zurg in the video game, and then subsequently through the film beats him. And he's like, I don't need to beat the game. I beat Zurg. It's like just tiny little things going on.
Yeah.
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 Even the relationship between Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head, and
Oh, that's so cute.
like there's multiple threads that are followed through and developed. And they're great throwaway stuff. Even like the Barbie aisle is a standout section in the film as well. You're like, oh, it's just because it's clearly the whole Al's Toy Barn is Toys R Us, which always had the aisles are themed.
Yeah,
well.
and you had like one toy in the whole aisle, like the Buzz Lightyear aisle. There were definitely aisles like that.
Yeah, all the Toy Story products.
Yeah, exactly.
Talking about Rex, remind me before the end, because even though I have the poster next to me, I'll forget it. I have a drawing to show to the world
Yeah,
involving a dinosaur.
great.
And you have a special connection with this movie, Adam, that you probably maybe don't know. So the actor playing Buzz Lightyear is Tim Allen, but his real name is Timothy Allen Dick.
Is it really?
Yes.
Didn't know that.
There you go. Oh,
Tim Allen. That's quite funny.
it's family.
I do have a fun story that my parents so wanted to see Toy Story 2 that they took me to the cinema, and I still had a fear of the dark. And we got up to the elevator with Zurg and we had to leave because it was too much.
Oh, Adam.
Like, even the case, like, I'm glad I left, but of another film, which was like, there was a Thomas the Tank Engine movie that was terrible that I didn't have to put my parents through, but I was like, nah, I can't do this.
Can't do this.
No, because I could remember that, like, I don't remember what cinema it was, but I definitely got Happy Meal after it, I remember, because they had the Toy Story toys.
I remember in the cinema, the best thing about a film was when the credits were rolling and me and my sister would just go in front of the screen and dance around in that bit.
Oh my God.
That was the best. We did it every single time. And we'd usually get the other kids involved too, which probably was
Oh my God, really?
At the hatred of the parents, yeah.
That's so funny.
So it was just like a kids party at the front.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
I used to do that all the time.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, I know. But because of course now you're like, you don't even think about that like huge section in front of the screen.
If you did that now, you'd get all these nerds crucifying children because I want to see the post-credit scenes. Get out of the way.
Yeah, I mean, it would never be a Marvel film though, would it?
Or if you do that at the IMAX here in Glasgow, you'll probably fall into the pit.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I think that was just the best thing about the cinema, though.
It's funny how wide an effect Toy Story 2 had, because I remember doing a scout trip to Edinburgh Airport where we got to see the airport air traffic control tower all the way at the top, which was cool.
That's cool.
Inside in the fire station at the airport and behind when the bags go through the machines. So in Toy Story 2, when you come in, it's like this massive sprawl of where all the bags on the conveyor points.
Oh yeah.
So we got to see it, and the guy started off by going, "It is a bit like Toy Story 2."
Oh.
And that's just how wide an effect that Toy Story 2 has, that anything that comes up in the film, people can immediately reference, because it's one of these films everybody's seen. Everybody will see it. And if you haven't seen it and you go and see it, you're like, well, I was missing out.
Well, that's the thing, though, because I only watched them. The second one, for sure, that was my first time for this, and I'm still a virgin on the two last ones.
I probably should specify, like, if you grew up like a kid at the end of the 90s and the 2000s, probably then. Like, if you're younger, you will have seen Toy Story, because it's one of these staples of... Because there was obviously films that before Toy Story, like the VHSs of all the Disney films, like I had Dumbo and so on and forth. Like there were all these other ones, yeah. But now the Toy Story and basically the first 10 Pixar movies are a staple of children's movies when they were kids. Probably.
Sure, yeah, of course.
And also in terms of the original idea, I would not have spoken to me because I never had toys in the first place.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No.
What did you have?
Not that I remember. Well,
cardboard box.
So it's
a stick. Back in my day, we had a stick and a yo-yo.
No, so it's so funny because my dad would purchase huge, incredible things, but more for him. Like, well, yeah. I still have, because I guess he had like frustrated from toys from his childhood that would not exist anymore or something. I have full train thing. but the size, like not the tiny ones that people are collecting, but something like the locomotive would be like 20 centimeters by.
Oh, like
by,
a Hornby train set.
But it was actually with the tracks and
the tracks you lay down, and because some people, it's like these things that some people build like the massive ones and have like the decorations.
Yes.
Yeah, I know what you're on about.
And
very cool.
The Hornby train sets.
I got that when I was like 10 or.
I used to beg my parents for that when I was a kid. They never got any because it was too expensive, and I had like wooden tracks with like the smaller ones that you pushed around as well.
Yeah.
I had them. I've still got them. They're in Dunfermline in a box somewhere.
I mean, you used to go to toy stores and like play with that huge the train sets that they have there.
Oh yeah.
But that's actually the basic principle, because essentially I think I only played once with those. Because I was like, this is for you, but it's not really, you'll destroy it as a kid, so I'll keep it hidden.
Oh.
So when you're 40, you could be able to, and now I'm pretty sure it's lost somewhere anyways.
Everyone, I remember begging, because every boy wanted a Skeletrix track. You wanted the Skeletrix track.
I mean, I bet men want.
I'll be honest. If I got a massive paycheck for acting, I think the first thing I'd buy is Lego. I'm not. I think it wouldn't be the Death Star. I think I would buy. Well, I did see something I did want for sure.
The Death Star is like £400.
Yeah, but the Millennium Falcon's like 600. Like everyone goes on about then. The thing is, I'm not massive into Star Wars, so I probably wouldn't buy them. But I definitely would buy They've got a new Jurassic Park door. Or they've also got the new Stranger Things. It's Will's house. It's upside. It's got the normal world on the top, and then directly underneath it's got the upside down of his house, of the buyer's house. So you could flip the set up and down to have both sets, which I would probably buy as well. But I do want to say before my mum listens to this that I did get not a Skeletrix like the brand. Like another one that was equally as good.
Sure.
But everybody, you died for like the Skeletrix with like the different cars, like the Formula 1 cars, and it would be like the really fancy circuit. Or I'm sure that later on in Pixar, they did one for cars. They must have done like a Skeletrix thing for cars.
No, I had toys, but it was around Christmas period and all that stuff, but I don't. Well, it's getting more and more. It's farther and farther with the years going by now than my childhood. But I don't. I only know I had toys because my father was a bit obsessed with filming stuff. So as early as the 80s, he had the camera and filmed all the family reunion stuff.
Oh, wow.
That's good, yeah.
So you can see, we have stuff, but as me being as involved with that, those toys like Andy is with then Woody and then Buzz,
Sure.
I think all my focus went onto when it started around 14 or 15 dogs more.
Oh wow!
Of course,
I'm almost certain that karma exists because I think it was a trip to Nice, like definitely a trip to France at some point. We got this like lovely like child's kit of it was a bow and arrow. It was a wooden bow and arrow, where it was like you could pull it, and it was one of these arrows that had like the sucker on it, so you like just fire it and it would stick onto walls. One of my neighbours and my friend at the time and his brother came round and they broke it by playing with it, like just basically to pull it too far and broke it, and my parents are still annoyed to this day that it's broken. But it probably is karma because I think it must have been, I don't know if it was before or after that. So either it's karma for him or karma for me. We were like pretending to do WWE stuff. I should have told this anecdote in the Fighting With My Family episode. But we're like, he had a bunk bed because obviously the brother. So we're like, oh, let's do like arm elbow slams off of the bunk bed. And I came out okay. But he broke his arm. From my suggestion, I'm pretty certain it was me that suggested let's do this, and the kid broke his arm
because he broke your toy.
Well, I didn't break his arm, but we were doing something that if you did it wrong, you would break your arm.
I was kidding.
Bunk bed are great. I fell on my brother once.
Oh no!
But that was towards the end of our childhood. It's actually the bed that broke.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, it was not on purpose.
Sure.
So it was like
I undid the bolts.
luckily I fell on the one side where it was not really, so I did not kill him.
Oh God!
You've met him, so he's still around. But yeah, that
She's got an irrational fear of bunk beds.
That's terrifying.
I bet your nephews won't get a bunk bed then, just for that. He's like, no way they get a bunk bed.
I had a bunk bed too.
I had one of those beds that was like, it was half a bunk bed, but instead of the bed underneath it was like a space where you could put like toys and stuff.
Oh yeah, I had that later on.
I had that because I'm an only child.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they are at the age where they actually have 2 separate bedrooms, so they're going to bed times are different and stuff.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, that. My parents did that too, but I still had a bunk bed. But yeah, with the like wardrobe and study bit.
Did you share a room with your sister at any point then?
Me?
Yeah,
for years. We had a bedroom, a bunk bed together. I mean, the one story that I can think of was when like you're like top to tail and you're watching TV and she like kicked me. And then so I kicked her back and I like nearly broke her nose because I like kicked her in the face.
Oh, babe.
So that was bad. Well, mostly because I guess me and Ninny, my sister, we're really, really close, especially when we were kids. And so I guess I didn't think about how, that I'm older and stronger.
So I just
and so I was just like, oh, you kick me, I kick you back. And like, it will hurt as much as, it hurt me, but not realizing that I'm 5 years older than her. And, a kick in the nose I mean, she could have broken her nose thinking about it. That's so dangerous.
No. You could have broken her nose, not she could have broken her nose.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That wasn't me. Like,
I didn't do it.
No. I mean, I just told you that I did it. I'm not shirking. The responsibility. I did it. Anyway,
I also think, going back on the fact and the stuff I discussed multiple times here, that I was kind of in my own world for a long time. Maybe that also is one of I didn't care about toys and all that kind of stuff. And now that I actually awakened to the world,
you're woke.
Yeah, I enjoy, but like to a degree to 10 to 1, making unusual gifts rather than receiving anything, really.
That explains the flat. All the podcast set stuff, like all the stuff we got behind us. It's a repressed childhood coming out now, Yann.
Aww.
In the sense of toys.
And that's possible. And it's also interesting looking at the old videos, that when you only had like the 3 displays or just one thing, and now it's essentially the wall is filled with stuff behind us.
I know.
Toy store. I mean, our whole flat feels like that. We have so much like lit trinkets, and it's almost like we have our own little like bric-a-brac store.
I know.
But it's really like I kind of like that. I've always liked clutter anyway.
Yeah.
And so I guess I always wanted a room like Andy's anyway, just because it was like sort of not cluttered, but it had stuff in it and it was like lived in, and like also this whole thing of like how he loved his toys so much. Like I thought that was so awesome that he had like 1 or 2 toys that were like his favorites. Like I never really had that as a kid. I had a Barbie car, but I would use it to hide my retainers.
Why?
Because I hated them.
So you would hide them in the car?
Yeah.
So when your mum and dad asked, where's your retainer? You go, I don't know.
I lost them. But, and then I'd find them like, years later.
Is that the thing that pinged off like before we moved? Or was it here?
What?
The thing in the back of your teeth?
Oh no, those are my actual braces.
It just came off.
Yeah. Like, because of course you have to keep like certain parts of the brace in because it stops your teeth from going back into the place where you started having braces in the first place. Right. So they keep metal bits like at the back, and yes, and then they they'll come off like when they come off. But so that's what you saw. But retainers are the plastic things that you wear at night, so that they stay in place, but you only have to wear them at night, and they're just these like plastic molds basically. But I hated them, so I would just put them in the car.
I was a chewer, like I would chew things. So I probably had I'd probably had Lord of the Rings stuff that might have been valuable now, but chewed it.
Did you ever have those metallic rods that looked like you had a spaceship instead of a face, like the it's not really
the horror stuff
radiophonic, but a bit like a Saw movies these days, like the.
No, I didn't have a brace outside my brace, but I did have like metal bars like coming down, but like inside my mouth. But they were like super high maintenance. I don't know why they were so intense, because all my friends who had braces had nothing like this. But I had these metal bars that basically they were like cylinders, and one was slightly bigger than the other, and they'd slip together to like so I could like move my jaw.
You became a robot for a few years.
Yeah, well, sometimes if I yawned like big enough, it would like get stuck. And I'd have to like wiggle my jaw, and then it would like come back down again. It was really high maintenance.
Bionic woman way before.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what that was, but I mean, you know, my teeth are all right now, so they worked. It wasn't like some weird like hack in the back street alley of London. Like,
you want to get your teeth fixed?
He knew what he was doing. It's just I've never seen anyone with those.
You get your teeth fixed at a bag of chips for £4.90.
Yeah, I think I still have scars in my mouth from those metal bars because they like protruded out. Yeah, they were really intense. I don't know. I maybe I should look this up. But like he was like a legit orthodontist. Like, don't worry. Like, he was expensive as well.
The beauty of the Toy Story franchise is it makes you remember your childhood, the good and the bad, and the just plain standard.
This has basically become like a childhood therapy session.
This is a nostalgia trip for us and our listeners going, thinking about us, thinking about themselves as kids.
Yeah, that's great. There is a Star Wars reference in the second film. Huge one.
Is there?
Well, huge one. What's the
Zurg?
What's the name
Zurg,
of the...
yeah.
Oh, yeah. I am your father. No. Yeah. And that's like a huge... And of course, they're like best friends afterwards, which is great. They like play catch afterwards, right? Like in the car park. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Like they're all these like really funny, like for example, the alien things, the green things.
Yeah.
When they're like tied to the what's it called, the mirror in the car.
Yeah.
And they're like talking about like it was a bit real because it was like, oh god, like how they're actors.
Oh yeah, they're up for different parts.
They're up for like, I'm up for like a toothpaste commercial. Oh wow, that's amazing.
That's great. Well done.
So brilliant.
God.
What are you doing next?
Oh, also that reminded me those little green ones that it's not an arcade game, but the game with the claw thingy. Have you ever managed to get anything from?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah.
I haven't. They're rigged though. Come on. I mean, it's ridiculous. There's no way that you could get anything.
I remember doing it in the Odeon in Dunfermline, surrounded by my mates. After like 4 goals, I got something, and we went wild because we couldn't believe we got it.
I can imagine that.
We're
you did.
Oh yeah, look at that!
It's impossible.
I'm the man.
Yeah, it's so impossible. I also love how Toy Story like sort of changed it for the claw was their like overlord. I thought that was so and it's also my dad's favorite thing to quote, the claw. My dad did that all the time when I was a kid. It's such a nice scene.
Yeah.
It's a game that is made to build tension, I guess. Like, I'm getting it. No.
Yeah. Even though it was super easy for Sid to get the 2 toys, which is super annoying because, I mean, watching it as an adult, it's like, that would never happen. But of course, the whole film would never happen.
Yeah. And on that depressing note, shall I ask the question? Oh,
yeah, go on.
Sure. So, first off, was Toy Story good, bad, or just plain standard? Yann?
Good. I have no childhood experience to compare it to. So now, these days, that was a good story. I enjoyed myself, yes.
Anouk?
This has to go in my vault because I grew up on this film and it's like changed with me. And I just love the fact that, in my childhood brain, I can remember how things were said, but not what was said specifically. And and oh yeah, like I'm going to remember this. Like if I have kids or nieces or whatever, like I'm definitely showing them this like this is going to grow up with people, like the kids around me. Like it has to. It's super important. And added 1, 2, 3 and 4 are amazing, and that's like that's unheard of. So I honestly, hats off to everyone that involved in this franchise. It's like one of the most incredible, iconic franchises ever made.
1 is legendary, I think. Just the way it paves the scene for everything that comes after it in 3D animation. There's no way around it. 1 is legendary. For me,
definitely
legendary
masterpiece. All of them.
Toy Story 2. Was Toy Story 2 good, bad, or just plain standard? Anouk?
Oh, excellent.
That's not a category.
I know. Okay, so it was a high good, definitely. It doesn't go into my vault just because, again, like I was a bit older and the story didn't speak to me as much. Like I didn't have a Jessie doll, etc. Like balls, you know. But like seriously amazing to also be like a second of such an iconic film and still be on the same level, pretty much. Because there are so many times when the second one has just fallen flat and sometimes even destroyed like the whole franchise. So I'm really glad that it didn't do that.
Yeah.
So again, like the whole franchise should be, you know, hats off, pretty much.
Yann?
Yeah, well, it's not the same level as the emoji movie, but well. No, good.
Gonna have that removed digitally, otherwise.
Yeah, we can, like, we literally even sat down, we were like, are we doing the emoji movie? And we all just were like,
no,
there's no way that we can spend an hour and a half talking about this pile of cow.
Tell you what, if we'll make a post somewhere and say if we get such and such likes, then we'll do the emoji movie. If people want it, we'll talk about it.
You guys can talk. I'm not involved in that because I'll just get really angry.
Okay, well that's what makes a good episode. Look at you.
No, because I'll say something.
I've not added that movie in the box, so there's.
That's good. Can you imagine if like we just pick it out? It's like, oh, are you kidding me?
That was an idea I had, and it didn't work.
The emoji movie?
No, the movies that one of us would hate.
Oh, no.
That just didn't work because
it's just too much stress.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, Yann, go on.
Yeah. So it was. What was your rating for this? Good.
Yeah.
For me, Toy Story 2 is the vault. There's no question about it.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. 2 is just a landmark film for me. I could watch the film every day for the rest of my life and still enjoy it repeatedly.
Oh.
Yeah.
Good.
And had a banging video game too. So Toy Story 2.
I never played the video game.
Buzz Lightyear to the Rescue was a great game.
Really?
Oh yeah, solid game.
Okay.
All right.
So in terms of that franchise, at some point we'll do the third one and the fourth.
Yeah.
As individual ones, right?
Yes,
yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
You want to show us this drawing, Yann, before you forget?
Oh yeah.
Yes, before I forget, and then I have something else. So
sure, go for it.
For the people.
If you listen to our I think it's in the Fringe episode, so and you can see the video, so that's a drunk Shakespeare, and that's what the drunk had drawing. So this is my mum and I and a dinosaur for some reason.
Fun.
We'll stick an Instagram of this out somewhere.
Oh wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, so apparently the drunk of each show is drawing. So
we need to go and see this. Oh,
well, that's the one that's in New York, but the
French one.
The French one. Cool. Just one thing that came up recently with my brother was a bit like, people are often surprised when they realize I've only seen the first season of Breaking Bad, when there are actually 5 of those. And it's always the same reason I give them. The series is over. When I'm done with it, well, that's it. And with my binging tendencies, I don't want to shoot myself in the foot. I mean, I have a busy life now, so true binging is not really an option anymore. However, just to let I'm the guy who could spend a day indoors to watch an entire box set of Stargate SG-1, and that was way before Netflix came to France. The type of guy who decided to get into Naruto, One Piece, and Fairy Tail at some point 5 years ago, and binging around 1,000 episodes in a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember Naruto. I couldn't get past. I don't know why. The only episodes I seem to see, they were stuck in a wood. And
People talked about Naruto for a long time.
They were in a woods, and then there's a fight between Sasuke at some point, and then that was it. And then I couldn't get, and then I probably jumped way far in ahead. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. So maybe one day I'll go back. I enjoyed what I saw.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll go back and watch the series properly.
It's like so many episodes. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about that because, I discovered that my brother actually never watched a single episode of Breaking Bad for that same reason. And, however, he watched Stranger Things, and as I booked for November, the Secret Cinema is doing something. So they are, for the first time ever, it's a TV thing, and there is no screening, but they've recreated Hawkins, and you interact with people in that. So I finally, I think I only watched the first season when it went out, and I just binged second and third in the last 2 weeks or something. So now I'm up to date with Stranger Things.
Nice. It's really good. It's really good.
Do you have stuff, because we actually, you may not know that, but now you'll know. We won't record for a while, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yann is leaving us again.
Well, depending on the release schedule, and so.
Unless me and Anouk record a musical episode while you're away. Just take advantage of you not being here and do a musical episode.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Paddington 2. That's not a musical, but you tried.
That went really badly. Oh,
just because I think that was just confidence, honestly. I reckon if we did it now, we'd be fine.
Yeah, of course.
That was early days.
And also, we've done something when Yann wasn't on this couch.
Yeah, that works out all right.
Thanks for... again, AudioMac is doing fantastically well, again, always, for some reason. Your Bohemian Rhapsody, like more than... We're approaching 2,000.
What can I say, guys? I'm just a brilliant editor. No. It must be... I think it's just a really...
It's all accidental clicks.
Yeah, can you imagine? So we thought this was something else.
No, but it's weird because AudioMac is intrinsically not really a podcasting platform. It's more about music, but for some reason we have great numbers there, which is great.
That's awesome.
Fair enough.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
So we'll see you next time. We were
Adam,
Anouk,
and Yann, and bye-bye.
bye guys.
Bye.